Alright, you're about to watch a random conglomeration of M57 progress videos. I really intended to document this a lot better than I have. Time has a way of getting away from you. I got a lot of stuff going on. I got projects of the driveway going on, spring's coming, trying to knock a lot of stuff out before summer gets here. But before you go through and watch all of that, I'll give you a little bit of an idea of kind of how things went down. So if you know me in this channel, you know I have what was an M57 swap JK, and love how you guys just got random stuff in your camera. This was an M57 swap JK, which you can see there on the ground outside the car. I also have a TDI, an 05 BHW TDI swapped Jeep Cherokee, and that one serves as my daily driver, especially through the winter. So if you were following this channel at all before, because there's not a lot of M57 swaps going on YouTube, you'll know that I was going to put that in my TDI swap Cherokee. And, well, obviously, plans changed. I really like my TDI swap Cherokee. It has its problems every now and then. Like right now I've got noise in the lower end of the motor, but I didn't rebuild that motor from the top bottom, so it's kind of expected. That's for another video. And but other than that, I really like that Cherokee how it is, and I don't know if the chassis is really very deserving of something as awesome as an M57. If I could come across another one like this at such a sweet deal, I would totally grab one and put it in there. But you know, the whole idea behind this car was to make it like the XJ with the TDI in it, but nicer and better. The OM606 was my approach to that. It's a world-renowned motor, and I don't know, man. It just isn't the vibe that I wanted in this car. There's nothing wrong with it. It runs great. It makes lots of power. It's noisy. If you tune it out right, you can get rid of the weird noises off boost. I've tried tons of turbo combinations, I think 8 or 9 total, and I know what you could do to get that thing to run really well depending on how you want it to run. But it just wasn't a nice motor. It wasn't a nice daily motor. It also, in my opinion, isn't really a 4x4 motor. If you're, at least here in the Midwest, if you're an off-roader, you need control and low-end power right off the line, or you're just going to struggle. And that stuff carries over to road drivability so much. If you don't have good off-the-line immediate power on the road, you're just waiting for this engine to spool up and get your 5,000-pound beast moving down the road. So there was kind of a switch that clicked in my brain where I just decided that it was going in this. I could have lived with that motor, but honestly, for what I have into it, it's not really worth it to me to have it in something like this. If it performed as well as how much money I spent on it, it would have stayed in here. But it's just not for this, I don't think. I mean, sure, there's going to be some guys who would love to just have an off-road 4x4 where they can just rev it to the moon everywhere they go, and that's going to make them happy, and that's a great motor for them. But that is not what I'm doing with this vehicle. So in this video, you're going to see a random combination of videos that kind of get taken every now and then of me kind of working through the motor. Rebuilt and deleted a bunch of stuff, cleaned out the turbos, did some gaskets and resealing. There was a period of time where I had a tuned ECU from House of Torque that wouldn't run the motor. Will worked with me very closely to get that running, got me in contact with a guy here in the States who owns a BMW shop out of Texas. Got me rolling with an updated tune. Working with House of Torque, mind you. They got me set up. I really appreciate that company. I will definitely rock a sticker on this thing. But it just, that was a whole period of time. Ended up getting the ECU back after a Texas guy fixed it up. Got it in here. It immediately was communicating correctly, you could tell. So I had a little bit more diagnosing to do. The regulator on the fuel rail that returns was shorted internally. I have no idea why. And then I also had to get my back pressure on the motor set up for it to start. And as soon as I did that, it started. And it shocked the heck out of me. I couldn't believe it started. From there, the 606 came out. I got the M57 in there. And just today, I got it running off the key. I got the tachometer running and everything. And here she is. We got a low mount snorkel on that side. We got a single exit exhaust on the passenger side this time. Honestly, because I don't want smoke getting all over my nice car every time I start it. And it made sense to have the exhaust go that way so you don't have to have it go under your transmission. And I'll make another video and show you guys kind of what went into doing this. I'll show you some up-close shots of the transmission mount, the engine mounts, and whatnot. I still need to put the front clip on, tidy up some wiring internally. I swapped over to electronic steering pump. I'll make a video for that so you guys can see how that went. Went and used a Jeep Dodge Chrysler electronic pump. Today I ended up chasing down a CAN bus wire issue and got the whole chassis working again. I have no idea how that happened, but it had to have happened while I was pulling the motor out and putting the new one in. So yeah, enjoy this video. This is just random clips of kind of progress over the last couple months. Probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months at this point. I think 4 or 5 months. And it's not all the videos I have, but it's some of the more interesting ones, I think. And it's a fun time to watch. The next video you'll see on this channel is going to be hopefully this thing running and driving. I need to get my transfer case input gear back from what's it called? Wariat Garage, I believe is the pronunciation. Cool dude. The adapter that was going to put the 242 XJ transfer case to that actually bolts to the JK transfer case. The only difference is the input gear. This is an unmodified 242 input. This is a post-modified input. You can see the different splines they cut in there. So they're doing the same thing to the input gear on the transfer case. I ended up picking up a Rubicon 4-to-1 low transfer case because if I'm going to modify something, it may as well be the best transfer case that I can afford to put in there. So yeah, enjoy this video, and the next one you'll see will be a little more in detail on like different things I had to do to get it to work in the JK. I don't know if there is another JK in the United States with an M57 in it. I know they're overseas, but I don't think there's one in the States, especially not with the USA motor. Definitely not one with the compound turbo USA motor. I think if there is one, it's probably an N57, not an M. So, pretty cool, dude. Enjoy. Well, while I'm waiting for stuff to show up, I decided to inspect the turbos because, you know, that could be quite the setback. And unfortunately, they don't spin very freely. Now, fortunately, this thing has all of the emissions equipment on it, so that's where I'll point my fingers. Went ahead and dove into taking the big one off. For those of you who are doing this in your car, I don't envy you. This is a terrible job. But I went ahead and took this apart, and what I found was the heat shield between the exhaust turbine and the housing was full of crud. I mean, just chock full, and like gritty, sandy stuff too. Some of that I probably broke loose by doing all of this, but it was very gummy and cruddy. So I went ahead and cleaned out behind that hollow cone and the housing. I went ahead and cleaned out between the back face of this turbine and that housing, and then I also cleaned between this guy and this guy, and it spins totally freely now, which is a good deal, and there's not very much play at all. And if you're not familiar, journal bearing turbos are supposed to have some form of play. Journal bearing, not ball bearing. This is journal bearing. They're supposed to have a little bit of play because they actually ride on a film of pressurized oil between the shaft of the turbo and the brass bearing in the center. So totally within my ichrometer spec. I'm definitely not going to swap that out for a $2,000 plus new unit. As for the small turbo, this one spins much freer, but not as free as I would like. So while I have all this stuff off already, I mean, this one totally spins way freer than the other one, and it's got a little bit more play for the size turbo that it is, but I'm still going to run it. That one's easier to swap. I can probably get a cartridge for it pretty cheap too, compared to this big ol' chunker. But while I have this all taken apart already, I'm just going to pop this off. It's only 4 bolts plus, an oil line. And I'll go ahead and clean that one too. Whenever I go into these builds and swaps, I usually go pretty deep, and I will rebuild the whole motor top to bottom. I'm not doing that with this one. In my opinion, most of the time you end up causing more problems than solutions. I'm not a beginner. I built this 606 inside and out, top, bottom. I held the crankshaft and pistons in my hand. I balanced those pistons and rods myself, being an inline motor. And as good of a job as I think I did on that, let's knock on some wood here. I am definitely not going to do the same thing to this. That was a very expensive build. I'm honestly not as impressed with this motor as I thought I was going to be. It's not smooth. I mean, it's smooth. Don't get me wrong. You don't feel any shake in this thing when you're driving, but it's very clattery and noisy. And it's not like the fact that it's noisy like it sounds like it's blowing up. Like if the noises that this thing made came out of this, 100% the motor's blowing up. But I guess that's just what you get for swapping a mechanical pump on an original EDC engine. No one seems to be able to solve the problem. We'll dive into that another day. I think I might swap my timing gear or something, but I need to start enjoying motors more in a stock form. This is already a pretty well-built motor. Their rods are very thick. The bearings are huge. The casting is very strong. So this is already a pretty good motor in stock form. Everything is very expensive on these to upgrade. It already has a compound turbo system that is capable of several hundred horsepower. I mean, I think it supports up to like 400 horsepower. And who knows how many foot-pounds of torque. I'd probably misspeak if I even mentioned it. But, the performance I get out of that with the VNT is not going to be anywhere near what I'm going to get with this. And I'm not even going to have to build this or completely rebuild it. I'm just going to reseal it, swap, the rear main, maybe the input shaft from the transmission, clean up the turbos, and delete it. If I have problems, then, we'll fix them as we go. It's not fun to do this type of stuff in the engine bay for sure, but what can you do? I don't want to just dump a bunch of money to try to save myself time in the future like I usually take the approach of. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with that, but just thought I'd show you guys some of the things that you can look forward to doing if you swap one of these. Give you a little bit of before and after. So here's the small turbo. Look at how tiny this thing is. But it gives great drivability. Here's the big one. Again, the small one. Yeah, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. I only have a little bit left, but you'll get the idea. I'm all out of air. It spins a lot freer than now, though. See? A lot better. Let me explain. All right. This thing is oh my God, yes. Where's DDE? Okay, EGS I think is what I'm... Hell yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so programmed, won't start for nothing. I've done everything. Everything's wired correctly. I tore back into the harness. I did a bunch of extra... and so you can't... I tried this thing. I got codes. That's it. I tried... I don't know where it is, but the Bluetooth thing and the ODB2 port shit, and it won't connect to the app. Any app, nothing. Won't do jack diddly squat donkey do. Okay, so they said download ISTA. I've heard about ISTA. Sucks to download. Literally, it's 200 plus gig of BS just to get data out of your shit. Ugh. So I got it downloaded. Why does this never zoom all the way back out, you stupid application? Oh my God. Oh, it's not unzooming. Oh my, what on earth? Okay. Went ahead and cut my resistor. That way it should be at 60 ohms since that thing brings it down, and the DDE still does not communicate. I don't know what RFK is, but it goes to JBE. And yeah, you can see everything's red because it's not responding. But that's okay because the transmission sure is. It just has a fault. So yeah, that's cool. Alright, diving in a little deep here. Doing the valve cover gasket. I pulled the oil pan off, cut the bracing off the bottom, and had a great time learning that welding aluminum that's been impregnated with oil is nearly impossible. This looks really ugly, but the welding underneath is very functional and decent looking. But I had little pinhole leaks and you just kept chasing them. So I opted to do an external JB weld job on the outside. It holds water perfectly well, so it'll hold oil. And if you've swapped an off-road vehicle with an aluminum oil pan, you know that these are wear items. So I'm sure I'll have to pull this out eventually to replace it. The unfortunate thing is you can't pull it without removing the transmission, from what I can tell. You might be able to use those two slots to undo the bolts, but golly, it doesn't really look like it would want to come out unless you pulled the transmission. I might be wrong, but this is what we're rolling with. It'll be just fine. I probably could have gotten away without the JB weld on the outside, but I hate oil leaks a lot, so gonna do everything I can, anywhere I can, to make sure we're not going to have ridiculous, outrageous oil leaks, which brings me to the valve cover gasket. That'll go back on tomorrow when the oil pan gasket gets here. I'm going to use the original oil pan gasket, like that one with the rubber. No glue, except for in the seams where they tell you to. So, oil pan's going back on tomorrow. In the meantime, I got my valve cover gasket, so I've pulled my intake manifold off, pulled my injectors, pulled my lines, cleaned these up. They look pretty decent. Got the valve cover off, inspected all this stuff. Looks really good. Cam wear looks great. The rockers seem pretty tight. Some of them will wiggle a little like this, but I believe that's normal. Some of them don't move like that. I'd say most of them do. I believe it's normal. Everything else is looking pretty good, so I'm just chugging along. Gonna go ahead and get this valve cover cleaned up with some cooking spray, or what do you call it, oven spray. It looks like the back of this motor got a little hot at one point. It looks way worse in video than it. No, that's actually about what it looks like in real person. But you can see it got a little hot. Some of this feels like it's oil or like diesel, but you can actually see how like it's not as defined as it is here. So that may have gotten pretty hot at one point, and I'm not exactly sure how, unless it's just straight up from the exhaust manifold. So I don't see anywhere from the inside that this could leak. It looks really good from the inside, and so that kind of tells me that this is an aesthetic thing, and seeing as that's going to be up against the firewall, I don't care. Especially with how expensive these valve covers are. They're a couple $100s. So this will be going back in. Gasket will be going back in. That's the new one. I pulled all the hardware off. I'm going to try to soak this stuff in Simple Green. Get it good and happy again. I might even let it soak overnight. I'm going to do what I can to clean this up, and then it can all go back on. As for the intake manifold, after talking to a pretty experienced M57 North America builder, I'm opting to put my flaps back in rather than delete them. The only reason people delete these is because they think they're flowing a bunch of air, and let me tell you, this is not a high RPM motor in the world of high RPM motors. In fact, I'm putting this motor in because it makes really good low RPM power right off the line, and that is how I intend to build this motor. So what these guys do is they shut this track down and force the air to come through the longer runner, which gives better torque because you have a longer intake track for the momentum of the air to be forced into your cylinder when you're off boost. And when you get into the higher RPMs, these valve flaps open up and allow for more airflow. The reason people delete them, other than the fact that they create restriction in airflow, supposedly, there is a screw, which you can see the tail end of it where I welded. That screw will come loose and go flying into your motor. So I TIG welded the heads of all the screws to the flaps so that doesn't happen, as my compadre has recommended me to do. So I'm pretty excited to see how that does. Not a lot of people have done that from what I can tell. So it's kind of where we're at. Moving forward pretty good. Torque converter, I put a new inlet seal on the torque converter. It was pretty quick and easy. I always have trouble getting torque converters back in and engaged with the pump and everything. This one was really easy. The AW4 and the NAG1. The NAG1 was kind of annoying, but I don't even know if I let this one come out of that transmission, but the AW4 is a nightmare. So, anywho, just little side notes. Don't think I'm forgetting anything, so I'll show you what it looks like when it's going back together. Oh my god, I can't believe it started. It started immediately. Woo! Get these doors open. Holy cow. I couldn't believe it started. Wow. I bled everything. I didn't know it was going to fire when I tried that. Yeah, you just wire positive. Wake the DDE up. And then crank. going in the Cherokee. Oh, no way. Needs more fluid. Yeah, I don't think there's enough fluid in there. This is crazy. Okay, this is awesome. Yeah, buddy. A little less than 3 hours later and she's ready to come out. Everything you see comes out as one piece. I got 4 bolts that hold the transmission in, and it can come out. Everything's unhooked. Power steering's undone, cooling's undone, charge pipe's undone, intake's undone, breather's undone, sensors are undone, the wiring is undone. And the cool thing about this whole deal, oh, fuel's undone, blah, blah, blah. Cool thing about this whole deal, all the electronics, except for the 6 glow plug connectors, I'm just going to take the sensors that went to this motor and the ones that I need to carry over, I'll land on there, delete the rest out of the harness. The whole engine bay harness stays the same. And all I got to do is drop this one in there. So this, I got to find a home for in the engine bay. And then my entire engine harness is this. So this will pass through the firewall, probably on the passenger side. It'll run over. I'll land this, and I'll land my ODB2 port right here. And she's good to go. Sweet deal. Oh yeah. Definitely a different kind of animal now. No vibrations. Very smooth. A little bit more coming to the chassis on this one versus that one, but still very, very minimum. That's pretty darn good for if I eyeballed that on there. Now that we're zoomed all the way back out, Okay, so crank, nothing. Will not trigger this motor. Sure, everybody's heard that by now. Okay, so I chase it around, this, that, yada, yada, engine runs on, jump starting. So, turns out, I removed this, right, because we're going to that. Turns out you put the key in, accessory mode, PRND was not showing up, period. Thought it was this, plugged it back in, messed with the cabling, nothing. All right. Play around with it for a day. Today I go, man, this has to be a programming thing. I hook up my Bluetooth thing, hop in JScan, check and clear on my codes. I'm getting tons of communication problems. CAN stuff. I'm like, all right, well, I had this twisted pair CAN wire from this hooked up to that, and then you had to add a resistor to get your CAN resistance right. Okay. Well, I had that still in there, so I removed that. No change. Check the resistance all over the place. Good. Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, all right, just today, like a couple hours ago, I'm like, all right, let's, I'm trying to assume, like, okay, it's something that I disconnected between that motor and this motor. It couldn't possibly be a new problem. Well, at this point, I'm like, it's got to be a new problem. So we start the painstaking process of chasing down CAN. So I chase the CAN. Lo and behold, the first CAN wire that I go to probe, because my PCM is not communicating with anything, I confirmed it had power and ground, so I'm like, let's do communication. The first wire I probe, this blue and white wire right here, I probe it to over there, nothing. No communication. I'm like, no way I got that lucky. I checked the other wire, black and white, communicates, beeps, right? Okay. So I'm like, all right, well, black and white twisted pair is common in this car, so I go to this plug here, and both wires beep going to that, which makes sense because those are communicating. So I'm like, shit, screw it. Let's just jump this blue-white wire from here to the PCM. All other connections are made. Let's just see if it's that one wire. You put this thing in here, turn it. There she is. PRND comes up, and guess what?